Breathing in spirit and breathing it out. And in this moment, I just know and I recognize that there is this one life, this one love, this one divine presence. That is all there is. It is everywhere present, for there is no spot where it is not. It is in this beautiful and what can only be called Pacific Northwest morning. Mm-hmm. Waking up to the mist and the mystery of water in its so many different forms. Just as water has so many different forms, so do we, and Spirit and God and this divine love pattern is individualized as every single person, individualized as me. As every person in this room, as every person online, anyone that within the sound of my voice. In its own divine, unique expression. Place of beauty and peace and joy and breath and life. Simply life like the song. I speak my word, knowing that this day is blessed. Every individual is blessed and a blessing. That this community with every individual gives and receives, and that in giving we receive, and in receive we give. And as Reverend David speaks, we know that Spirit, love, speaks through him and it enters our hearts as we listen with ears on our hearts this day. So I know that every individual, every person, every expression, whether mist or boiling water or any form of God that there is, hears what they need to hear. They take what they need and leave the rest. I'm so grateful for the music team that supports us in this, for the audio team that helps make this experience for everyone, for every helping hand, whether it be the folks that bring the coffee and make it get ready, and just every single person in this, and is that divine expression. So with that, my heart is full of joy. And from this place of joy and thanksgiving, I'm so grateful for this truth, for this prayer that moves forward into that law, knowing that it moves forward. And so it is.
And so it is. A bit. So we've talked about giving and receiving. There's one other aspect of that process, however, this cycle. It has one more component, and that is utilizing. Yes? We must receive, utilize, and share the gift. When we breathe, our body uses oxygen, yes? And it converts it into the form of energy necessary to sustain life within us. With the food we receive, we receive it, we utilize it, then we release it. It creates the energy that we need for life. You know, we tend to view all of our releases as waste, right? But our waste sustains other forms of life. The air we breathe in, the oxygen we breathe in, comes back out as? Thank you, carbon dioxide. And what do plants need to survive? Okay. And then what do they give off as their waste? Right. What a wonderful symbiotic relationship. It's the same thing with everything in life. It passes through, we utilize it, but we don't need other forms of life use. The nature of the ecological system, the overall, is that our waste is other organisms' sustenance. Water provides another great example. You know, it starts off oftentimes as a snow melt from a mountain, forms a stream, which then forms eventually hopefully a river and joins with other streams, forming a larger river, which flows into the ocean and then returns as evaporation into clouds, which then return back to the mountains. A whole cycle that keeps on going on, right? Yes? You remember this from your high school or grade school? Okay. Your youth know this, by the way. Along the way, however, it forms pools, it forms ponds, it forms lakes, it forms ways that sustain life in more ways than just rushing through. Even that does sustain life. But when we form a lake, it sustains life for fish, for insects, which feed the birds, and for animals to come and drink from the sides. It's a whole process that we need this expansion of the water. We need to hang on to it. I'm skipping through some of my talk here. Excuse me a minute. So we see this process of receive, use, and give everywhere in nature. It works well until we introduce a blockage. In humans, two of our biggest areas where we introduce blockages are love and money. Yes? Can you relate to that? Okay, just a couple people can. The rest of you, no? Well, okay, yeah, you're all good. Since today's talk is about money, I'm going to save the love talk for another time. Aw. But I'll just suffice to say that it works, this same process works, or the restrictions work everywhere. Our constrictions and blockages will block anything that we are wanting to give, but we have stuff in our way. So, and those constrictions and blockages come from cultural beliefs, which we then individualize into what we call our beliefs. We think they're personal to us, but they're really not. You and I learned them when we were really young, from people who learned them when they were really young, from people who learned them, right? Yes, on and on, that cycle. Our conditioning is what Don Miguel Ruiz calls our domestication, and they're based on fear. And when we come to the concept of money, there's usually the fear shows up in one of two main ways. One is there's something wrong with money. It ain't spiritual. There's not enough of it. There's something wrong with money. Or it shows up as there's something wrong with me. Money's fine, but I can't get any. Love is fine, but I can't get any. Something is wrong with me. Both of which are lies. Or as I talked about last week, BS. Belief systems. Deepak Chopra says stopping the circulation of energy is like stopping the flow of blood. Whenever blood stops flowing, it begins to clot, to coagulate, to stagnate. This is why you must give and receive in order to keep wealth and affluence or anything you want in your life circulating in your life. So as we awaken from the hypnosis of the collective spells in which we have individually applied to ourselves, we free up the natural flow of money. We free up the natural flow of any energy. Like I said, today we're going to, this is the same talk that the same thing to remember from 2 weeks ago when I said, this is a talk about consciousness. It's about consciousness in the form of money. It can be about consciousness in the form of health or love or creativity or anything else. It's about consciousness. So we're just going to, because we're doing our pledge drive in the middle of that, we're going to talk about money. But it's the same principle operating everywhere in anything. Yes? Yes. Okay. So as we free up the natural flow of energy, we experience affluence, which affluence comes from a root word meaning abundantly flowing. How many of you would like to have the energy of life, love, money, anything else, health, flowing, abundantly flowing in your life? Yes? Yeah. All right. Some of those collective beliefs that have caught us up have sounded like this. It is better to give than receive. God loveth a cheerful giver. Both of which imply that it's better to exhale than to inhale. Yes? I could go into the food metaphor, but I won't. Both are equally valuable. Both are equally necessary. And I'll remind you that the first thing you did was to receive a breath. And so we have to open to receiving, and because we sometimes don't value ourselves, we constrict the flow of this infinite energy that wants to come through. You know, we talk about that we are individualized expressions of the divine, and sometimes we interpret that, I'll just speak for myself, as I am a limited expression of the divine. That's not what individualized means. It just means I'm the unique expression of the divine, but I'm not limited. And the divine is not limited in its flow into my life or anybody else's life. You know, the truth is that God, whatever name you want to give it, just loves us. Whether we're rich or poor, God just is love, yes? It doesn't care. It doesn't look at our bank account and say, I like you better, I like you less. It just loves. We get held up with images of people like Jesus or Buddha or spiritual people are poor. Jesus wasn't poor. You know, in 2 of the Gospels, he describes himself as a glutton and a wine bibber. A wine bibber is somebody who likes his wine. How many poverty-stricken people do you know that would say they're gluttons? Meaning they love their food. Lots of food. Right? Yes? So Jesus wasn't poor. First gift he was given was gold by the wise men, fund his ministry. He hung out with rich and poor people. He fit in anywhere. Buddha wasn't poor. Muhammad wasn't poor. Any of these great spiritual teachers were not poor. But we get this image that, oh, in order to be more spiritual, you have to be poor. Detached from or not attached to stuff is a very powerful spiritual practice. But poverty is not. I love it. Charles Fillmore, from one of the co-founders of Unity, says, poverty is a sin, meaning a mistake. It's just a misunderstanding of the process. Keep breathing. Keep receiving. So it's time to set aside those thoughts of God wants us to be poor. There's nowhere else in nature that we see deliberate poverty. Nowhere else. It's time to set aside those thoughts of something's wrong with money, or something's wrong with me, or I shouldn't have what I want, or I shouldn't. Anybody besides me ever get caught up in the I shouldn'ts? Yeah, we shouldn't all over ourselves. It's also time to let go of the pie model, that there's only so much. And I'm going to be a good person by not taking too much so that other people can have theirs. We live in an infinite universe. We live in infinite abundance. I remember a prosperity teacher one time who said that they studied money, how much money there was in the world, and this was several decades ago, and there was enough that every single human being in the world could have $8 million. There's enough food to feed every single person on the planet. The problem isn't the supply, the problem isn't the enoughness, the problem is the distribution, or do we open to it? And do we let it flow? Do we take it in? Do we receive? Do we breathe it out? That's what we're playing with. When we remember that we don't really want money per se, remember that from 2 weeks ago? You don't really want money. Rather, we want what the money can create for us, what we think that it will create. What we really want is something else. What we really want is a deeper experience of our own divinity, our own joy, our own happiness. And to share that with others, we recognize that fulfilling that takes nothing away from anybody else. If I'm happily in love, does that diminish your ability to love? If I'm happily in great health, does that diminish your ability to be healthy? No. But we get this little thing that there's this energy called money, and we're going to put this into a little separate category over here. And it works differently. And it doesn't. And so to blow through that consciousness. Yes, I heard somebody take a nice deep breath. Let's just all do that. When we can create a natural abundance of the universe can show up as us and as the forms of prosperity that serve us and others. Then we naturally create a lake of good, and we move from what I call money diarrhea. It flows in, it flows right out, it flows in, it flows right out. Have you noticed your food doesn't work that way? You can have an infinite supply of food, but if you're not utilizing, remember creating a lake, It does no good for you. Okay? So we have to receive, we have to retain and utilize some, and then we release the overflow, which is the natural, healthy flow of life. Are we good with that? Great. I'm going to talk about something else, one other thing, and that is stretching. Every morning I get up and I stretch my muscles. I have a stretching routine that I do because I know that if I don't, my muscles will start to get more rigid, more contracted, and my body will over time become constricted and rigid. So stretching expands us, yes? We live in a universe that is physically expanding, which means the consciousness behind the physical expansion of the universe is also doing what? Expanding. Because unless the consciousness was expanding in its expression, the universe wouldn't be expanding. So if we don't stretch, we contract. It's just the natural way the things are. And contraction really is, life is moving on, but if we're not moving with it, we seem to be falling behind of life. Yes? Yeah. So after my talk a couple of weeks ago where I talked about the fact that we were running a $2,000 a month deficit, somebody came to somebody else on the council and said, you know, our $2,000 a month would disappear if 40 people contributed $50 more per month. Simple math. Breathe. I suspect that if I suggest that, it may raise fear among some people because they don't know how to take in $50 more a month so that they can share $50 more a month. They don't know how to make that happen. So many times we hold back from what we want because we don't know how to get there. And so rather than saying, this is what I want, and I'm going to let the universe take care of the how, which is what we teach, the what is mine, the how is God's, or the laws, or whatever you want to use it. Because we don't see the how, we hold ourselves back, and we don't even start or try for the what. So I'm going to invite us to do something different, and that is to, in all areas of our life, pay attention to what is it that I want? What is it that I want to experience more of? And just notice that. Notice what your heart, what your soul wants. And stop worrying about, I don't know how. Of course you don't, because if you already knew how, you would be there. Yes? The brand new baby doesn't know how to walk. But eventually it learns that it wants to walk because it sees all the adults around it doing that, and it has a natural internal process that says that. And so it finds a way. Each of us did that, by the way. And so sometimes, just like we needed a little slap to get us to start breathing, we sometimes need a little gentle push to move beyond our comfort zone. And so I'm going to take a risk and gently push. I've heard it said that the role of a minister is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. When I was married, my wife and I were in ministerial school. I said, you take care of comforting the afflicted, I'll take care of afflicting the comfortable. But since we're no longer together, I guess I get, both roles fall on me. I'm going to suggest that you increase your pledge as a gentle stretch beyond what you've done before. If you're brand new here, by the way, this is not for you. We'll talk about that in a minute. As a gentle stretch. Did you hear that gentle part? Gentle stretch. When I'm stretching, I don't sit there and try and do splits, like a 12-year-old could do, yes? Because it would hurt. It would probably do some serious damage. But a gentle stretch. See, if we're doing the same pledge that we did last year, if we're doing the same pledge we do 5 years ago, and there's a number of you, I know, who say, I'll just re-up my pledge from last year and from 5 years ago. Guess what's been happening in the economy? Is it the same as 5 years ago? No. So basically, you're looking at the staff and saying, we're cutting your pay by whatever the rate of inflation is. You're looking at this building and saying, no, don't really want you. We want to just stay in the same situation we were in before, but that's gone. So even then, we're going to be behind on that. Keep breathing. Breathe. So I'm going to invite you to stretch. I'm going to invite you to go out on a limb and not give what you believe will fit into your life, but what you claim will fit into your life. I want you to give so that you can receive more. And sometimes we need that little commitment. When I was a congregant up at CSL Seattle, every year on for our pledge drive, before the pledge drive would start, they would have a dinner for the top 10% of givers. And we would go up to the top of the Columbia Tower, have a lovely dinner. It was pretty pricey, not for those of us who were participating, but it was a lovely process. There were a couple of years in there where I did not get the invite to the dinner because I was not in the top 10% of givers. And so I ran home, and sat there and went, oh, poor me, they shouldn't be doing that. No, I did not do that. What I said was, I'm going to make a commitment that next year, my finances are sufficient that I can give more. And do you know what happened? Every year, I was there. I'm going to invite you to stretch. I'm going to invite you to call forth not just giving more out of what you have now, but to receive more, to expand your receiving ability so that you can give more easily. Would you be good with that? Yes. Now, some of you will sit there and go, I don't know how I'm going to receive more. That's fine. We're going to declare the what and let the universe handle the how. Yes? We do the same thing in relationship. We do the same thing in how. This principle works everywhere. This is not just about money. We're just going to play with it in the field of money. Yes? Yeah. Okay? And so we're going to let go of the conditioned belief that increased income, more money coming in, requires increased work and increased struggle. I don't think the people who are multi-billionaires on the planet worked multi-billion times harder than the people who aren't. Okay? So it's not about work and struggle. It's about consciousness. It's about expanding consciousness. It's about letting go of playing small. So as a community, we have taken this step to move into this building. We have stretched. This is a stretch for us. Are we willing as a community to stretch our consciousness in all ways so that we can do this? That's a question. Are we willing as a community to stretch? Because truly, we belong here, yes? Okay? This feels like our spiritual home. Yes, we tolerated, we got by at Nova. Love them, bless them, nothing wrong with them. We got by there, but we belong here. We can do so much more, and we enjoy it so much more. So would you be willing to stretch? Yes. To expand in the consciousness, to support it, because this is the call to be greater, to live in alignment with an expanding universe, and to recognize that we live in a universe of infinite abundance, and it wants to express through you and me. It wants to. Got that? It wants to. It's not withholding. All we're doing is getting our bloated nothingness, as Emerson likes to say, out of the way. I want to do a reading from, this was yesterday's reading from the 365 Days of Richer Living by Ernest and Raymond Charles Barker. As students of the science of mind, we should expect the impossible to happen. I'll read that again. Take it in. As students of the science of mind, we should expect the impossible to happen and the unexpected to be made manifest if we keep thinking in terms of God. See, most of us think in terms of our checkbook, our bank account, the stuff, the facts that are right here. If we lift our thinking up in terms of God, that's why 2 weeks ago I gave you the spiritual practice of looking up. Lift up. He goes on to say the Bible has within it promises of what can happen when we let God work and cease from our acceptance of limitation. Lack of time, money, and power are feeble excuses to the person who knows that the mind of God is within him and that the divine ideas are working through him. All the plans of the human mind with its time, space, and money limitations are as nothing when God's thinking enters our consciousness. As we link our minds with the mind of the universe, we start into action a liberating process which delivers us into greater good than we have ever conceived as being possible. Unexpected good appears, greater love flows through us, and the world becomes a vital, creative place once again. Are you willing to expect the impossible to happen? My commitment to you is that during 2024, to provide lots of support for your expansion. We'll provide prayers, classes, groups, workshops, and all sorts of other means to support your expansion. There's one catch. You have to participate. You can't build muscles watching others lift weights. I know, but that's how it works. Last night I was talking with Carol, and we both had bought this Qigong tape from when Swami Bhyanananda was here, and she was saying, have you listened to that tape? Have you watched that tape? It's so wonderful. I've done some of the exercises, and it's really great. And she's already getting benefit from it. Do you know where that DVD is in my house? It's still in the shrink wrap, sitting in front of my DVD player. I haven't gotten any benefit from it because I haven't participated in it. Guess what I'll be doing this week? Okay? Tell the universe you're ready to receive more fully. Make that statement. You know, for those of you who are brand new here and you're not sure this is your spiritual home, that's fine. Find another area of your life to commit to stretch. Okay? Find another area of your life where you're willing to make a statement that I'm willing to have a greater outcome than I ever have before, and the universe can supply a greater income if you're open to it. Tell the universe you're ready to shine more brightly than ever before. Fill up and spill over. I'm going to close with a quote that comes from Dennis Merritt Jones in his book, The Art of Abundance. And he says, the law of, which is a great book, by the way, The Law of Abundance from Dennis Merritt Jones. Fairly small book, really good. The law of circulation is manifesting in your life today as either a cornucopia of more than enough or a vortex of not enough. Got that? The law of circulation is manifesting always. More than enough if I'm open to it, not enough if I'm not. Depending on how freely energy flows through you. There are an infinite number of ways the principle of abundance can be channeled through you. It's empowering to remember that you are the gatekeeper who directs the flow. I invite you to participate in that. We have an affirmation. Say this with me. I receive, use, and share the flow of infinite abundance with wisdom and joy. One more time. I receive, use, and share the flow of infinite abundance with wisdom and joy. Thank you.